Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to get right into Miss Katie Porter, a congresswoman from California who, in my opinion, completely embarrassed herself on the Bill Maher show this past week. So we have got to talk about it. Let's get into this. So Katie Porter was on the Bill Maher show along with Piers Morgan, who I like a lot, by the way, because Piers Morgan makes a lot of sense lately and he's based. So they were discussing the first topic, which was a case of a 21-year-old gentleman who worked as an airman, I believe, in the government, and he was a part of some type of email chain from higher-ups that had classified information, and this person decided to leak this information on a chat on some server, which of course is an issue because these are government secrets that are now out there, and it's a big deal.
Why a 21-year-old? Now, I read most of the secrets came out, they were from the Pentagon Joint Chiefs of Staff. So the 21-year-old is on an email chain with the Joint Chiefs of Staff?
It's completely insane, isn't it?
Thank you.
Here is where it gets good. Hit it, Katie.
Is anyone concerned in this story about the aspect of the level of maturity of American youth? Level of bad judgment.
Right, but the real scandal is not that he wants to do it, isn't it?
Kind of old.
What?
And grumpy right now. I mean, let's be clear.
Sorry?
It's such a bullshit.
Kids are immature. That's why they're kids.
Not at 21. Not all over the world.
21-year-olds are immature. That's why we don't let them drink until they're 21. That's why some of us don't think that 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds ought to be able to go get AR-15s.
They can go fight.
I think there are.
So Miss Katie Porter, Congresswoman Katie Porter, just made an excellent point that young people under the age of 21, that they are not mature enough. They don't have the maturity level to be able to handle adult things. And she brings up, having assault rifles, driving, drinking, tattoos, things of that nature, right? And I'm sitting there kind of mind blown because I'm like, wait a minute. Katie Porter is somebody who actively pushes politically for HRT for minors. She believes that they are perfectly fine and that they are perfectly capable of making these life-changing, irreversible decisions on their health. And I just found it so interesting that here she is trying to drive this point that young people are not mature enough in the mind, their brain isn't fully developed to be able to make adult decisions or to have adult responsibilities, but yet at the same time, she has no problem with her state of California pushing for gender ideology and for child mutilation and for HRT of minors. Does that make any sense? It's like she's almost there, but not quite. It just blew me away because she's exposing herself. She's exposing the weakness of her party and her political ideology and how flawed it actually is. Because by omission, she's stating herself that children do not have the mental capacity or the mental maturity to make adult decisions. And the funniest part about all of this is the person that they're talking about is a 21-year-old. So this 21-year-old is not mature enough, according to Katie Porter, but yet the demographic for these children who are getting HRT drugs in states like California are way younger than 21. So how can you argue that an 11-year-old is mature enough for HRT, but a 21-year-old isn't mature enough to handle classified information? Then they got into the discussion of Dylan Mulvaney, of course, and the whole Bud Light situation and the Nike endorsement. Watch these clips and then let's talk about it.
When it comes to trans issues, there seems to be no room for debate. I mean, trans people seem just to want to have you have to accept lock, stock, and barrel everything they say, or else you are a bigot and you are shouted down.
Well, yeah.
And, it is new, a lot of this stuff, and we are going in the opposite direction, for example, of Scandinavian countries and the UK, which have pulled back on a lot of this transitioning. So it's not like we are to the left of everybody.
I think it is a more complicated issue, and I think the issue around Dylan Mulvaney is that until very recently, like a year ago, Dylan Mulvaney was identifying as a gay man and then decided to identify, I think, as non-binary, and is now identifying as a woman and talks in these ads about her journey to womanhood and about being a girl and so on. And I didn't really care about the Bud Light ad. Bud Light want to market themselves like that. They'll reap the consequences, good or bad. At the moment, it doesn't look very good, but that's entirely a commercial decision for them. Where it got more complicated, I think, was on the Nike ad that came out at the same time, also featuring Dylan Mulvaney, who was in women's sportswear, including a sports bra, despite not having any, and she's had no surgery. And a lot of women got, I think, and I understand this, they got, I think, pretty exercised and offended by the way that Dylan Mulvaney goes about selling herself on TikTok, himself, their self. I don't want to use the wrong pronoun, I can respect that. But actually, Dylan Mulvaney, in my view, when I watch these TikToks, is often mocking what a misogynist view of how a woman behaves would be.
Dylan Mulvaney is free to express herself and to live her gender identity. There's no one right way to be a woman or to drink Bud Light for that matter, or apparently even to shoot at it.
But what I would question, and I think legitimately, is where trans rights to fairness and equality begin to erode or even destroy, as we're seeing in women's sport, for example, the rights of women to fairness and equality too. And it's that is the problem.
And this is why I am loving Piers Morgan, because when it comes to these issues, he is always the voice of reason in these situations. And how sad is it? How sad that on a panel with 2 men and 1 woman, the woman is the one who doesn't understand the issue with this situation, and how biological women are being virtually erased and eradicated from their own spaces by a biological man who identifies as not a woman, but as an underage girl. But you notice that the audience kept clapping for Piers Morgan. Now, that audience for Bill Maher, I guarantee you, is mostly left-leaning or left-wing. And even they were clapping at the common sense that he was stating during this entire interview or this entire discussion. No one was really clapping for Katie Porter when she was talking about these issues. So that lets you know that people are seeing what's happening in the culture, and they're not okay with it. People on the left, moderates, and people on the right. And the only people that seem to be okay with this push are people on social media, are major companies and corporations who are going woke, and leftist politicians who are so out of touch with what their own constituents believe and feel. Okay, so this is the part of the interview that completely blew my mind more than anything else in this entire discussion. When Katie Porter had the nerve to actually insinuate that Riley Gaines, who in my opinion is a hero for standing up for biological women in sports, in Katie Porter's mind, Riley Gaines is only doing what she's doing for clicks and likes.
I think, some people have trans people in their lives that they know and they love, and they're concerned about their safety and their well-being. Other people, it's a new or unfamiliar topic, and we should be able to have a civil debate. Nobody, including Riley Gaines, who I disagree with strongly, should feel
What do you disagree with, out of interest?
I think that it should be up to sporting bodies to make the decisions about who and how should compete.
What has she said that's actually wrong?
I think that what she has done is try to turn this. We talked about people, using things to kind of get likes and get clicks.
That's not what she's doing.
It's not?
I've got no truck for Riley Gaines personally, but all I've seen her do is stand up for women's rights to fairness and equality.
But
She actually competed against Leah Thomas, and it was obviously unfair. Leah Thomas won one of the races in the NCAA championships by 50 seconds against a bunch of biological females who simply couldn't keep up.
To her NCAA championship, here's Thomas, who has been under the spotlight the entirety of this season. Worked for it. She was pushed over the first 350 meters. Thomas wins the NCAA championship. Ended up very close for second, with Wyatt taking it ahead of a late charge from Erica Sullivan in third.
That cannot be right. It cannot be fair.
That is something that I think our sporting bodies should be dealing with. And by the way, Riley is speaking up for herself, and that is her prerogative, and I respect her free speech.
I think she's speaking up for pretty much every female athlete in the world.
This is so unbelievably disheartening to me that a biological woman can't see the fight that Riley Gaines is doing and why she's doing it. First of all, Riley Gaines is no longer a professional athlete or a collegiate athlete. So she has no dog in this fight as far as her own career when it comes to sports, because she no longer is competing. So that is not even a factor. So then the next question is, why is she fighting so hard for the rights of women in these spaces when it comes to sports? And the answer is very, very clear. The answer is Riley Gaines isn't thinking of herself. She's thinking of the next generation coming up behind her, the next female swimmer or runner or UFC fighter. She's trying to protect them and their space. She's trying to make sure that there is fairness for those women, because this generation has completely failed when when it comes to women in sports and their spaces because of people like Katie Porter, who's more interested in political talking points and buzzwords than actual fairness and what is right. I mean, it's not rocket science, and the fact that she had the nerves to try to downplay Riley Gaines' fight for this is so disgusting to me, especially in wake of what just happened to Riley Gaines when she went to a college in San Francisco. She was attacked physically and verbally by a mob of trans activists who literally had her barricade herself for 3 hours in a room. 3 hours while the activists were telling police officers that they'll let her go if she pays them.
Yeah, no one tell her to pay us. Tell her to pay us and then she could go. $10 each.
So you're telling me that it's okay to not care about biological women in these spaces because biological men who identify as women are more important, and that putting them ahead of biological women is actually inclusivity? Really? So this is modern day feminism? Because from my perspective, this is misogyny in the worst form. And the biggest perpetrators are people just like Katie Porter. Man, all I gotta say is Piers Morgan completely filleted her. I'm so glad that he was there on the panel. I'm so glad that he was able to completely articulate the points. How sad that a biological man had to school a biological woman on women's rights. But welcome to 2023, guys. Crazy. If you enjoy this content, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'm at 52,000. Actually, no, I'm at 53,000 subscribers now. It's crazy. I keep growing. Thank you guys. I love you so much. If you also want to support me on my other platforms, I am also available on Instagram and on TikTok under CurlyBoyChuck on all social media platforms where I'm continuously getting canceled just for you. Until next time, guys. Peace.